Imagine someone standing in front of you. They are smiling, their cheeks are raised, their teeth are showing, their eyes are slightly narrowed, so they must be happy, right? Now imagine that 5 seconds earlier, they received terrible news. They are still smiling. Suddenly, the exact same expression means something completely different. And that creates a strange problem, because one of the first things we learn about human faces is that a smile means happiness. A child gets ice cream, smile. Someone sees an old friend, smile. You finally find your phone after searching for 20 minutes while holding it in your hand, smile. It seems almost embarrassingly simple. Happy people smile. Unhappy people do not. Except humans apparently decided that communication was far too easy, so we made smiling complicated. People smile when they are embarrassed. They smile when they are nervous. They smile when they are apologizing. They smile when they meet strangers. They smile when they want someone to trust them. They sometimes smile during arguments. Some people even smile while describing something painful. So when does a smile stop expressing happiness? The strange answer is that a smile does not really have one meaning in the first place. A smile is less like a label attached to an emotion and more like a message sent from one human being to another. Sometimes that message is, I'm happy, but sometimes it is, I'm friendly. I'm not a threat. Please don't be angry. This situation is awkward. I want you to like me. I know something you don't. Or simply, I have absolutely no idea what expression my face should be making right now. Imagine walking into an elevator. There is already another person inside. Your eyes meet. Neither of you knows the other. For one uncomfortable second, two primates are trapped inside a metal box, traveling vertically through a building. So you perform one of humanity's smallest social rituals, a tiny smile. They smile back. Nobody won the lottery. Nobody fell in love. Nobody heard a great joke. You are not suddenly overwhelmed by joy because another person has pressed the button for floor 7. The smile is doing something else. It is saying, we're okay. Psychologists studying facial communication have found evidence that smiles can serve several different social functions. Researchers have described smiles associated with reward, affiliation, and even dominance. In other words, some smiles communicate pleasure, some communicate social connection, and others can communicate status or superiority. That changes the question completely. Instead of asking, is this person smiling? We should ask, what is this smile doing? Picture 3 stick figures. The first receives a birthday gift. Their face lights up. The second approaches a nervous stranger and gives a gentle smile. The third wins an argument, leans backward, and gives a slow little grin. 3 smiles, 3 completely different messages. The mouth may be doing something similar, but the social situation changes everything. And humans become surprisingly good at learning these rules. Think about the smile you give a close friend. Now compare it with the smile you give someone who says, remember me, when you absolutely do not remember them. Those two smiles may look similar from across the room. Inside your head, however, they come from different worlds. One appears because something pleasant is happening. The other appears because your brain has launched an emergency diplomatic operation. Smile, nod, bye time. Maybe they'll say their name. This is where smiling becomes fascinating, because your face is not merely displaying what you feel. Sometimes it is helping you manage the social situation around you. But here comes an even stranger question. Can we tell which smiles are genuine just by looking at the faces? You may have heard of the so-called Duchenne smile. It is usually described as a smile involving not only the mouth, but also muscles around the eyes. For years, the popular version of the idea became wonderfully simple. Fake smile equals mouth, real smile equals mouth plus eyes, case closed. Except science rarely allows anything to remain that convenient. Eye constriction is certainly associated with many positive smiles, and studies have found it occurring frequently during positive emotional experiences. But it is not a magical truth detector. One study found that although smiles produced during reported positive emotion very often included the eye movement associated with Duchenne smiles, that same feature also appeared frequently when participants did not report positive emotion. So if your plan was to become a human lie detector by staring suspiciously at everyone's crow's feet, you may want a second career option. Faces are not barcodes. You cannot simply scan one muscle and download the person's emotional state. A smile can contain clues, but clues require context. And context becomes especially important when people smile while feeling something negative. Imagine a student walking onto a stage. Their name is called, hundreds of people are watching. They trip, not dramatically, just enough the entire room sees it. They stand up and smile. Are they happy? Probably not about nearly becoming a human bowling ball in front of their classmates. The smile may be responding to embarrassment. It can soften the moment. It can tell everyone, yes, I know that happened. You are allowed to relax. I am still socially functional. Now imagine someone laughing nervously during a job interview, or smiling while saying, wow, that presentation went interestingly, or grinning after accidentally knocking over a glass at dinner. Again, the smile is not necessarily reporting happiness. It may be regulating tension. Researchers have even studied distressed smiling, smiling that appears during unpleasant emotional experiences, suggesting that such smiles may sometimes play a self-regulatory role, although they can also affect how other people judge the person smiling. In other words, sometimes the smile may be aimed partly inward. Your brain encounters tension. Your face produces a familiar social signal, and for a moment, that expression may help you move through the discomfort. But there is another type of smile that is harder to notice, the masking smile. Imagine someone has just had a terrible morning. They barely slept. They argued with someone they love. They missed the bus. Their coffee betrayed them by leaking inside their bag. Then they arrive at work. A co-worker asks, "How are you?" And automatically, they smile. Great. That smile may have almost nothing to do with happiness. It is covering another emotion. Studies of masking smiles show that people can smile while traces of emotions such as sadness, fear, anger, or disgust remain present in their expression, and observers are not always equally good at detecting what lies underneath. Why would we do that? Because humans do not live alone inside transparent boxes. We live in groups, families, schools, offices, friendships, strangers waiting in checkout lines. And every group develops expectations about which emotions should be displayed, when they should be displayed, and how strongly. Imagine receiving a gift that you absolutely hated. You open the box. Inside is an object whose purpose you cannot even identify. Everyone watches your face. Your brain has approximately half a second to prevent an international incident, so you smile. Oh wow, this is amazing. That smile may be completely sincere in one sense. You genuinely appreciate the person. You genuinely appreciate the effort, but you may feel absolutely no joy toward the mysterious purple object now sitting in your hands. One expression can therefore sit on top of several emotions at once: gratitude, awkwardness, affection, confusion, fear that someone will ask whether you like the color. The human face is not always choosing one emotion from a menu. Sometimes it is displaying a compromise, and this explains something important. A smile does not have to be fake simply because it does not mean happiness. Consider the polite smile. Someone holds the door open. You smile. A cashier hands you your receipt. You smile. A neighbor you barely know waves from across the street. You smile. You may not be experiencing a burst of pleasure every time, but the smile can still be genuine communication. It genuinely means, thank you. I acknowledge you. We are friendly. No conflict here. That is not necessarily deception. It is social language. Think of waving. When you wave goodbye to someone, nobody asks whether your hand movement is authentic. The movement has a purpose. Smiles can work the same way. And now the mystery becomes even deeper, because sometimes the smile is not about friendship at all. Imagine two rivals. One realizes they have gained the advantage. They do not laugh. They do not celebrate. They simply give a small smile. Suddenly, the expression feels completely different. A smile can sometimes signal confidence, superiority, or dominance rather than warmth. Research comparing different smile types supports the idea that people use and perceive distinct smiles associated with reward, affiliation, and dominance. Same species, same mouth, very different messages. This is why a smile can feel comforting in one situation and unsettling in another. A nurse smiling gently before a procedure can reduce tension. A stranger smiling at you after you have just watched them hide behind your curtains, not so much. Your brain does not judge the smile alone. It judges the entire scene. Who is smiling? What just happened? What are the eyes doing? What is the body doing? What is the voice doing? Does the expression appear suddenly? Does it disappear suddenly? Does it fit the conversation? Does everyone else seem comfortable? Context transforms facial movement into meaning, and that creates an uncomfortable truth. We are constantly interpreting other people with incomplete information. Someone smiles at us, and we think they're happy. Someone does not smile, and we think they're upset. Someone gives a short smile, and we think they don't like me. But sometimes, we are not reading their emotion. We are reading our guess about their emotion. Those are not the same thing. Imagine two identical smiling faces. Put the first beside a birthday cake. Put the second beside a broken computer with smoke rising from it. Suddenly, your brain writes two completely different stories. The face did not change. The context did. And there is another complication. Humans can intentionally control parts of their facial expressions. We can exaggerate them, suppress them, replace one with another. That does not mean we have perfect control. Small traces of other emotions may remain, but it does mean there is no single facial movement that guarantees access to someone's private experience. That is why researchers who study smiles increasingly treat them not simply as automatic readouts of happiness, but as flexible social signals whose meaning depends on their form, timing, context, and function. And perhaps the best example happens during moments when happiness and sadness exist together. Picture a parent watching their child leave home. They smile, their eyes fill with tears. Are they happy? Yes. Are they sad? Also yes. Which emotion does the smile represent? Maybe that question is too simple. Humans can experience multiple emotions at the same time. Pride can sit beside grief. Relief can sit beside exhaustion. Love can sit beside fear. A smile does not always replace those emotions. Sometimes it becomes part of the mixture. This may be why certain smiles are so difficult to describe. The smile someone gives at the end of a farewell. The smile at a funeral when someone remembers a ridiculous story. The smile of a person looking through old photographs. Nothing about these moments is emotionally simple, and the face does not pretend that they are. So, when exactly does a smile stop meaning happiness? Maybe the answer is the moment we assume happiness was its only job. A smile can emerge from joy, but it can also become a bridge between people, a shield against embarrassment, a peace offering, a mask, a habit, a signal of confidence, a way of saying, I'm okay enough to keep going, or even a tiny attempt to make an unbearable moment easier to carry. That does not make smiles meaningless. It makes them more meaningful, because the most interesting thing about a smile may not be the movement of the mouth. It may be the reason the person needed that movement at that exact moment. The next time someone smiles at you, you probably should not stare into their eyes like a detective examining evidence. That would create an entirely new social problem. But you can remember one thing. A face gives you information. It does not give you complete access to a mind. Sometimes the happiest looking person in the room is genuinely happy. Sometimes they are simply being polite. Sometimes they are nervous. Sometimes they are protecting someone else from their sadness. And sometimes they may not even know exactly why they smiled. Which means perhaps the strangest thing about the human smile is not that people can fake it. It is that one tiny movement of the face can carry happiness, fear, kindness, embarrassment, confidence, sadness, affection, and pain. And somehow, most of the time, we still understand one another. So maybe a smile never really stops meaning something. It simply stops being a synonym for happiness and starts becoming what it was all along. A message whose true meaning cannot be found on the lips alone.